Connection.
With a personality shaped by being an athlete and a background in mainstream sports media, I found that the stories I was most interested in telling were the ones often overlooked, the ones that might not otherwise be told, the ones that show the intangible and not just the highlight reel. The Sports Council is about highlighting the great, the good, the unique, and everything in between in the Pacific Northwest sports world. I'm Jamie Council. Thanks for joining me.
You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, the Tri-Cities leader in sports.
Welcome to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports. I'm Jamie Council, and I'm joined by Matt Evans. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for having me today.
Thanks for being on. And for people that don't know you, you do way too much in high school sports. And by that, it's always great. You know what's going on around the state. So why don't you tell us what exactly you do in the world of high school sports?
My gig, I guess you could say, is I've been doing computer rankings for well over a decade. I started the company, you could say, back in 2012 and started sharing my stuff back in 2016. And I just kind of, it was a hobby at first that just kind of has turned into a hobby with a little more impact on things than I ever thought. Cover, football, basketball, mostly, sometimes track and field in the spring, and, a few other sports. But yeah, it keeps me busy, but, it's a fun gig in the end of the day.
I know, I appreciate it. And you were one of the very first people I met when I moved to the Tri-Cities, and you were a part of my docu-series, The Lost Fall, during the pandemic as well. So I've appreciated what you do in my realm in the Tri-Cities of sports coverage. So a lot more fun going on right now that it is state basketball playoff time, and so much going on everywhere. It's madness, March Madness, you might say. 3 tournaments across the state of Washington. In Tacoma, it's the 3A, 4A. In Yakima, it's the 1A, 2A. And then in Spokane, 4A boys. This is a very interesting bracket, a little lopsided.
Yes. When we had the regional round there, we had 3 huge upsets. It was absolutely, the only higher seeded team to go through was Gonzaga Prep. And the way they have the bracket, the way they have it formatted, now you've got 4 of the top 5 seeds on the same side of the bracket. So you'll have number 1 Gonzaga Preps having to play against number 2 Auburn. The 2 top teams are going to play in the quarterfinals. You've got Glacier Pete Camas on the other side. There's 1, 2, 3, and 5 on there. So you look at that and you think it's kind of lopsided. But for us locally, that opens up a door for Richland there as the 4 seed. They've got a pretty solid path right to state there with a big match against West Valley today. The door is definitely open for the Bombers, despite having a regional round loss to Camas. I think that the door is open for them to make a run to state.
That's right. The Bombers won 63-54 over Emerald Ridge yesterday and got second in state last year. I would say not knowing, after watching them all year, I'm not surprised they're here, but it's a little surprising just the level of team they put together after their losses in last year's state playoff run.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's crazy just how long and athletic they are. You look at a kid like Landon Northrup. That kid can shoot the ball from anywhere. And then you've got Lance Hornvelt, who's he can handle the ball at 6'8", but he's also a good post presence for them. Today's going to be a huge matchup with West Valley. The West Valley's got post players named Parker Mills. 6'6", 280. He's an all-conference offensive lineman, and Richland they're built as a basketball team, so they don't really have that big-bodied frame. They do have some tall guys, but I'm not sure if they have somebody who can match up with the physicality of him. I think that's going to be the huge thing to watch if you're watching the game today. Keep an eye on how they attack Parker Mills. If he can keep him in check and keep him moving and out of the post, I think that Richland's got a good chance to be playing tomorrow. In the afternoon, at least in the semifinals.
Absolutely. West Valley, I watched them even last year when Mills was even younger, and how do you match up against that? He's a big body, tall, and with that in the district playoff, seeing them in Davis. A lot of people thought that game would be closer, but so West Valley did defeat Davis in the district championship, and Davis boys got knocked out. So that's one local team that did drop out of the tournament with a loss on Wednesday. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to that West Valley and Richland matchup. It's going to be a battle.
Oh, it's definitely going to be a battle, and the road doesn't get easier after that because you've got Mount Si, who's missing. They are missing their star player in Lat Ford. He's been injured for the last few weeks, and then and then Sumner on the other side of the bracket there. It's going to be it's not an easy task for Richland, but I think that the task lightens up a little bit if they can get past West Valley and into the semifinals.
So predictions, boys 4A.
You can't predict against Richland. I mean, I would even if we weren't on our Tri-Cities radio show, but I think that I think Richland and Gonzaga Prep are the two best teams in this bracket, and I think we're going to see a rematch. As for who wins, it's going to be a great game, and I think that Richland is probably going to be the one they're going to avenge that loss back at the district championship game.
Moving on to the 4A girls, I love all of the talent on this side of the Cascades. The same note continues as we go into girls 4A,
and this was one that. When you saw the Davis girls lose and have them flip on the other side of the bracket, man, it's the Chiawana girls are probably feeling pretty good when they saw Davis at the 1 seed and them at the 3 seed, but Davis losing on the in the regional round pops them over to our side of the bracket, and it's going to be a very tall task for Chiawana. They do have a favorable matchup tonight with Glacier Peak. Glacier Peak knocked off Union, who's got one of the best players in the state in Brooklyn Haywood. I was really hoping to see Union and Chiawana play. I would love to have seen Haywood against that Chiawana defense. But I think this is a very favorable matchup for Chiawana. They have the size to be able to kind of go inside on Glacier Peak, and they have the size both inside and outside. I think that the big key tonight, if you're watching the game, we got to get Malia Rude involved early, feed her the rock early, have Glacier Peak collapse their defense, and that's going to open up shooting opportunities on the outside for Kaya Foster, for Amia Tiarina, for Bailey Maldonado. I think that's going to be the thing that really sets the tone right there. And they can't fall behind early either. That's the thing we saw against Auburn. That was, Auburn was just hitting threes left and right, and Chiawana was able to come back and get in the game with some hot shooting, but you're shooting in the dome as opposed to a high school gym. The depth perception is off a little bit, so you can't really focus on that three. You need to really build from the inside out.
And that's something that does bode well for Chiawana, where they've always come in with a lot of high expectations. Malia Rude has been a state standout since she was a freshman, and then Kaya Foster, her development. And so you take a look at those players, but now they're seniors, so there's always that senior factor. And for this year, it is Chiawana, where Davis, a very talented team. I mean, they put up 100 points in their district championship. That is impressive, but they're all sophomores. So once you get into that, it's not that do or die feeling that you have as when you're a senior.
Absolutely. And that's going to be something we're going to talk about later in the 2Bs. We've been watching these kids. I know I first heard about Malia when she was in 7th grade. And it just, back when you were looking at her and possibly Talia Van Olaf and having maybe, some sort of crossover, and man, that is definitely something that's going to play into it too as we get into that semifinal. If Chiawana plays against Davis, if the game is tight later on, Chiawana's going to have that urgent mentality to get it done now that they are seniors. And
that was something that surprised me, just because Davis, they are so good. Somebody said, "Oh, I hear they played their starters in the game when they hit 100." No, they went into their depth chart that you had the younger players hitting threes, so they are that good. Especially you have Cheyenne Hull, the younger sister of Trista Hull. So I really wonder how the loss is going to affect Davis, good or bad. And yeah, having Chiawana and Davis right there, it's going to be really, really interesting, because Davis beat Meade, the 9 seed, yesterday, 81-58, and like you mentioned, take on Lake Washington tonight at 9:00.
Yeah, and that's one of the things too that kind of can help a team. It may, when you lose in the regional round, getting those legs under you, getting a game under your belt on Wednesday could, now you kind of feel the dome out. You can get those shooting angles down, and you've got that momentum of, hey, we've been here, we've won before. So that's a thing that occasionally you'll see a Wednesday team just take off and just have the huge momentum. And yeah, so I think that could be a huge thing for Davis here as well.
So predictions.
It's got to be Chiawana's year. I feel like they have to do it this year. If they don't, it's going to sting. And this one's going to sting a lot worse. And I think that they can. I think that obviously that semifinal matchup is going to be the tough one. But then once you get into the state championship game, it kind of opens up with, you've got Woodinville on the other side, you've got Camas, you've got some teams that are strong but are beatable for Chiawana. And I think that, you got to go Tri-Cities homer. I think we're going to be celebrating a state championship with Chiawana next week.
Well, I hope Gary Jonas and the Riverhawks do it. It's been so much fun to cover them. So let's move on to boys 3A. Again, there's just been a lot of shakeups this year, not really what you would expect, and that trend continues into boys 3A.
Yes, this was just like 4A boys when it just so many upsets galore. The biggest one being Bellarmine Prep, the 8 seed, taking out Rainier Beach, the 1 seed. Saw that score come across. It just kind of froze me, because I've had Rainier Beach as a clear top number 1 all year. I mean, just margins away from number 2 that I've never seen in my computer. To see them lose, it just kind of threw me for a loop. But I did find out some inside information later that their star player was nursing an ankle injury and only played like the last 4 minutes of the game. He did come back last night. He scored 19 points as Rainier Beach beat Eastside Catholic to move on. But I still think, Rainier Beach is the cream of the crop in 3A, and they're going to, now they have a gauntlet on their side of the bracket with Seattle Prep tonight, Metro League rival, and then potentially Garfield or Bellevue in the semifinals. I mean, Rainier Beach and Garfield, Rainier Beach and Bellevue, those could be state championship games on their own, and we're going to get them on Thursday and Friday. It's just, for slightly less money. Those are the games to watch. It's going to be a tough road for Rainier Beach, but I think that they're still the favorites. I think they're going to take it.
So your championship game prediction: Rainier Beach and
Lincoln of Tacoma. The other side of the bracket, it's, you kind of look at the seeds, and you've got Mount Spokane up there as a 2nd seed, 8 loss Mount Spokane team now. But even as the 2 seed, I don't really feel like they're the favorite. I think that they're a really solid team, but I'm looking at Lincoln of Tacoma, who's got some momentum. They're coming off of a big win against Federal Way last night. They're going to probably ride momentum. They're a better team than their seed indicates. I see Lincoln of Tacoma and Rainier Beach in the state championship game.
So moving on to girls 3A, because it's semi-local, we have to talk about Central Valley. They're who everybody, at least on this side of the Cascades, in the state should be watching.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's when I was doing a preview show on Tuesday this week, we got to 3A girls and they asked, who are your thoughts? And I just said Central Valley. It's like, that's it. Like, they're head and shoulders above everybody else. And, they already had a solid team, but then getting in Bryn Magayi as the transfer from Colfax. I mean, we saw her dominate at the 2B level, and I don't know if there, usually you see a kid go from 2B to 3A, and it's kind of like, maybe there's going to be a drop off there, but no, she is the real deal. She's a McDonald's All-American, for goodness sake. We only had 6 of those from Washington in the last 15 years, I think, and she is the real deal. She's going to the University of Washington next year. When you get when you commit to the University of Washington as a 2B player, I mean, she's a very special kid. And I mean, it stinks for Kennewick that they're going to have to face off with them again, but I mean, at least they do have good video. They have kept them close. I think, if I remember correctly, Central Valley's closest games this year were both to Kennewick. So, I mean, if anything can happen when you get to state, but, Central Valley is the clear favorite for me in this one.
And we have to give Kennewick some shout out to, just to make it. They got a win on Wednesday, a 9-point win over Roosevelt. And they also have Dylan Dress going to Eastern Washington next year. So that's a great game just to watch them dominate at the high school level, and it's just kind of fun to track players as they move on in their career. Oh yeah, and Big Sky is very there's a lot of Washington alumni, especially in girls basketball. So I'm excited to follow Dylan Dress next year, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Tri-Cities homer, fingers crossed Kennewick puts in a good game. Love to see him win, but I mean, Central Valley is Central Valley. Absolutely. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break here from our sponsors. You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports.
Looking for a sweet treat? Swing by your local Krispy Kreme today. Indulge in our movie snacks collection now through March 9th. Then if you're feeling lucky, grab a dozen of our festive St. Patrick's Day donuts available March 10th. While you're here, download the Krispy Kreme app to unlock extra savings and get the scoop on all our upcoming sweet surprises. And remember, it's never too late to schedule your fundraiser. All at your local Krispy Kreme, 2805 Dupertail in Richland. Come in with a sweet tooth, leave with a smile.
Inconveniences can happen at, well, inconvenient times. JRT Mechanical has plumbers and HVAC technicians available 24/7 if an emergency does arise. Or if you feel like your house isn't cooling like it used to, or if you're tired of a hose leaking from last winter's freeze, JRT is an honest, reliable company that's been in the Pacific Northwest for more than 3 decades. Give JRT Mechanical a call at 509-314-4314 or visit jrtmechanical.com.
If you've got a winery, brewery, or dairy, why buy industrial parts and supplies from across the country? Central Industrial Sales is your local source for supplies and equipment for the dairy, food processing, winery, and brewing industries. We specialize in custom fabrication, industrial cleaning equipment, sanitary fittings, valves, pumps, chemicals, and many other supplies. Everything's available through our website, by phone, or by dropping by our office. Call 509-375-4032 or find us at centralindustrialsales.com.
You're listening to Jamie Council on the Sports Council.
We're back on the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports. Jamie Council joined by Matt Evans of Evans Rankings, talking state playoff hoops. So we talked about Tacoma. Now let's go to Yakima. It's the 2A and 1A. The 2A boys, we have some local talent.
Oh yeah, we've got this is going to be a great field. This is already a great field. 2A, 2B girl, or 2A and 2A boys and girls are both loaded tournaments. In locally, we've got Sela and we've got Prosser both in there. Sela's got they won in the regional round, so they had an automatic in spot into the quarterfinals there. They're going to be taking on Columbia River. Jackson Pepper's the dude for Sela. As he goes, they go. I think that they've got a really good chance to move on to the semifinals, especially as a better team, better seed. When you're looking at the other local school up there, you've got Prosser. Prosser has a very tough matchup with Linden, but this is the one that they wanted. When the before the brackets came out, I got lots of messages from Prosser folks just like, hey, we want Linden, and Linden's going to be a tough matchup for them. I think that Linden probably takes them, but I do like Prosser as a team that trophies on Saturday. They've got a really tough, a really good team. Kobe McClure is a heck of a player, and we're just very lucky to have him in our viewing area to be able to to keep track of his stuff. But yeah, I think that you see Sela going through. I think you see Prosser going down today, unfortunately.
Yeah, Linden and both Linden Christian, they're kind of perennial powerhouses in the Sun Dome.
Absolutely. It's a basketball factory up there. It seems like there's something in the water. They just come out of the womb and they're shooting threes.
So moving on to the 2A girls, a lot of the same names when we take a look at that. And again, a lot of local teams still in the tournament. Oh, yeah. This is the best tournament right here. You've got 6 of the best teams. Locally, we still have Ellensburg. We still have Prosser. Even if you kind of expand our Eastern Washington viewpoint, you've got Deer Park. Ellensburg and Deer Park are undefeated. There are 3 undefeated teams in this. All top 6 seeds are just unbelievable basketball teams, and the matchups are going to be absolutely awesome. Ellensburg is looking to kind of bounce back. They had a long winning streak snapped in the state championship game last year from Linden. I think that they're on the collision course that those two are going to match up again. Personally, in the before the tournament, I picked Prosser to go through as well. Their defense can cause havoc, but they do have I think that I don't think that they have enough to be able to get past the higher seed teams that they would see going on. So I think if you're looking at safe money, if you're betting on this, which obviously don't bet on high school sports, but Linden and Ellensburg are the 2 favorites to meet again in the state championship game. Yeah, Linden, the 1 seed, Ellensburg, the 2 seed, Ellensburg, and then Prosser won on Wednesday, 71-24 against Eatonville. And speaking of Prosser, I was at their game when they played Chiawana. They handed Chiawana a big loss to start the season. So there is a lot of talent on Prosser, but Ellensburg, the long winning streak snapped. They had Olivia Anderson that went to University of Washington. So they're kind of hungry to continue the winning tradition. Tim Revay and the Bulldogs had a heartbreaker last year. So I think there is a little bit of that X factor to say, we still got it. We are Ellensburg. Exactly. We're in a Star Wars trilogy here, and we're getting to Return of the Jedi between them and Linden. So Prosser takes on Archbishop Murphy today at 3:45. So moving on in the state tournament, let's move on to the 1A boys. What we got, Matt? that?
Oh man, here Zilla's the team. They had an amazing state championship run last year. Last second win over Annie Wright, who Annie Wright this year comes back with all of that talent. They added in a transfer from I think Tenino or either Tenino or Toledo, one of those T schools from the east side or from the west side. And Annie Wright is they are gung ho to win that state championship. I think Annie Wright's the favorite in here, but man, Zilla is such a fun team to watch. If they can get past Seton Catholic today, I really like their chance to make it to the state championship game. Obviously, they do have to run through Annie Wright again in the semifinals, but Zilla's long. They've got speed. They know how to control the tempo. And in all honesty, they should have beaten Royal in the district championship game. They kind of let that one go away, slide away from them. Royal with that huge comeback a couple weeks ago. And there's your other seed. Royal is the 2 seed. They kind of, as the season started and they were winning games, seeing them towards the top of the rankings. I know a lot of people were asking me, hey, what do you think? Are they for real? And I was like, let's just wait. And then, they finally got a big win over Zilla. They beat Kashmir. They beat some of those blue bloods in the SEAC. And I think that they're a for real team, but the biggest thing for Zilla is going to be, or for Royal, is going to be a potential semifinal with Linden Christian, who is, as we know, basketball factory of Linden. They're a very tough out, and I think that I see Annie Wright winning the state championship, but it's gonna if Royal can make it to there, it's gonna be how can they negate Linden Christian's size.
So Royal takes on Chelan tonight at 9 o'clock. Zilla facing Seton Catholic today at 3:45. So if Zilla wins, they will play top-seeded Annie Wright in the semifinals, and then Royal or Chelan, if either of them win, because I consider them both semi-local, will play the winner between Linden Christian and Kings in the semifinals. And the 1As are probably one of the funnest because you see such different teams, because it's the small towns against the private schools of the city. So there's a little bit of the I don't know quite what to say, but it's kind of country versus private, and there's that whole mentality going on at the 1A level that is a truly fun thing in the state of Washington.
Yeah, and I agree. The 1A level is a fun one because you get those teams that are really, really good, and they love to go schedule tough too. Like Annie Wright, for example, they have a win over 3A number 1 Linden or Rainier Beach this year. That's unheard of. For a 1A school to go out and beat a top 3A school. But yeah, Annie Wright's probably the best all around boys team in the state.
So moving on to the girls 1A to wrap up Yakima. What's it looking like over there? And it's kind of fun. Natchez Valley with their first win in 18 years at the Sundome, winning 41-37 over Nooksack Valley in the opening round. I mean, they're an 8 seed, but just truly a special moment for a local team.
Absolutely. And Natchez Valley is a team I've been very, very high on all year. I really like their duo of Maddie Jewett and Ellie Bost. Ellie has been someone who I've tracked for a few years. I love the grit that she has on the floor. She's her and Jewett are both just natural leaders. I personally have Natchez Valley going to the state championship game. It's a pick that I've kind of gotten some side eyes from, but I feel like they showed yesterday. Even when their 2 leaders are behind or are struggling, the rest of the girls kind of picked it up, and they were able to grind out a tough win. And I think that they're going to be one of those teams that catches that Wednesday momentum and takes them all the way to state championship game. We also have Zilla in the quarterfinals up here. Zilla is playing a really tough Kings team, who they also have 7 losses, but they're a team that only had 2 teams in their league, so they scheduled very, very tough. Their losses are some of the toughest that you'll see in the state on any resume, especially at the 1A level. It's going to be a really tough matchup for Zilla, but Zilla has that speed and offensive firepower that I could see them making it past Kings. But then you run into Linden Christian, and Linden Christian girls are just, they've been in the state championship game 6 times, I think, in the last 7 years. And it's Linden basketball, and that could be the one that kind of trips up Zilla there in the end.
So Zilla would face Linden Christian in the semis, Linden Christian taking on Kashmir today. So that wraps up Yakima. When we come back, we'll talk about the Bees. You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports.
Inconveniences can happen at, well, inconvenient times. JRT Mechanical has plumbers and HVAC technicians available 24/7 if an emergency does arise. Or if you feel like your house isn't cooling like it used to, or if you're tired of a hose leaking from last winter's freeze, JRT is an honest, reliable company that's been in the Pacific Northwest for more than 3 decades. Give JRT Mechanical a call at 509-314-4314 or visit jrtmechanical.com.
Our UPS store in Pasco is known for its quality shipping service, but many don't know our locally owned store is a full-service print shop. From copies to posters to banners and more, think of the UPS store as your Pasco printing store for jobs both big and small. Our team is ready to turn your idea of business or personal needs into a reality. When you're looking for a local, convenient, and reliable print shop, think of the UPS store in Pasco located at 5426 North Road 68 or call us at 509-547-2624.
In business and in life, there's no such thing as one size fits all. No two people we serve at High Street are the same. Every family, college student, business owner, entrepreneur, and individual are working toward a dream, and dreams are worth protecting. At High Street, we provide tailored insurance and financial solutions for businesses and families to protect what matters most to you. Because we're specialized, like you. High Street Insurance and Financial Services. See possible.
If you've got a winery, brewery, or dairy, why buy industrial parts and supplies from across the country? Central Industrial Sales is your local source for supplies and equipment for the dairy, food processing, winery, and brewing industries. We specialize in custom fabrication, industrial cleaning equipment, sanitary fittings, valves, pumps, chemicals, and many other supplies. Everything's available through our website, by phone, or by dropping by our office. Call 509-375-4032 or find us at Central Industrial Sales.
Looking for a sweet treat? Swing by your local Krispy Kreme today. Indulge in our movie snacks collection now through March 9th. Then if you're feeling lucky, grab a dozen of our festive St. Patrick's Day donuts available March 10th. While you're here, download the Krispy Kreme app to unlock extra savings and get the scoop on all our upcoming sweet surprises. And remember, it's never too late to schedule your fundraiser. All at your local Krispy Kreme, 2805 Dupertail in Richland. Come in with a sweet tooth, leave with a smile.
You're listening to the Sports Council on 1340 ESPN, the Tri-Cities leader in sports.
We're back on the Sports Council, Tri-Cities leader in sports, ESPN 1340. Jamie Council joined by Matt Evans, talking some hoops, and it's crazy in Spokane. I'm personally in Spokane watching the Bees. Let's start with the 2B boys. Truly a shakeup. Hello, seating committee. What are you doing?
Well, I think I wouldn't necessarily put it on the seating committee because, this year we did know coming in that District 4 and the West Side was a little bit down. And I feel like, for those of you, if you don't have the bracket in front of you, all 8 quarterfinal teams are from the east of the Cascades. It's the first time it's ever happened. And it's just, we knew that this was going to be a loaded field. But I don't think that we thought it was going to be like this. I'm not going to fault the seating committee just because I think that they would have taken so much flack if they would have just put 8, East Side teams in the top 8 there. You gotta take, give that district championship has to mean something. And I think that there are some fringe, areas where they could have maybe, flipped a couple seeds. But that being said, the east side of the state, we're dominating this year. The Columbia Burbank boys, this is their golden generation. Like we're talking about with Chiawana, they're seniors this year. You've got your Quincy Scotts, your Tristan Fremonts, your Crew Pereiras, these boys that we've been watching, grow in front of our eyes for the last 3 years. The biggest thing for them this year is they finally have a post presence that they've lacked in the last few years, and that could be the thing that puts them over the top. We've got Tri-Cities Prep here. Tri-Cities Prep is yesterday that went over Lake Roosevelt. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was going to be a close game, and I saw the score and thought it was a typo.
It was a 12 versus a 5 seed. We're talking 64-33.
Yeah, they came out and just absolutely dominated. And that's the thing is Tri-Cities Prep has kind of they've been playing second fiddle to Columbia Burbank this year, but that's the kind of thing that they like. They're like, yeah, just let everybody else look at everybody else. We're just going to kind of slide under the radar. And, they have, I think this is the toughest test for them because Reardon is my pick to win 2B boys. I really like Reardon. I love I think that they're very explosive, very fast, But man, if anybody could take them down, I mean, Tri-Cities Prep, this could, if they've got that momentum, if they can ride it, who knows? But yes, Columbia Burbank as the 1 seed. They have to do it this year. If they don't, it's going to be, who knows when the next time they get a group of kids like they have into that city over there.
Absolutely. And yeah, Tri-Cities Prep, that win. Isaac Nelson, head coach, are you surprised? And he said, no, like we really put it together. But to me, they're maybe an inconsistent team. I think they're overshadowed because they are sitting in a league. I mean, up until the last little part of their season, they did have some questionable losses in the final stretch, but up until then, 3 of their 5 losses were to Burbank, the number 1 overseed, and Colfax, the defending state champions. So hopefully they're putting it all together now. And you had Bryson Wild with a game-high 21 points, 12 from Lane McClure, 10 from Will Balcom, and then off the bench, Landon Levy also putting up 10. And Wild, he had a double-double. He also had 11 rebounds and 4 assists, so they're kind of stepping up, so that will be interesting to see at the 2B level. But on Wednesday, 3 of the 4 games were big upsets. And when I mean big, I mean double-digit wins, the lower seed beating the higher seed. Moving on to 2B girls basketball. This one, just shake it up like a snow globe. Mabton taking off the number 1 overall seed in Rainier.
Yeah, that was a huge win last night. I know we were writing kind of our notes going into it, and as we were discussing our show today, Rainier was winning that game, and we're kind of like, all right, so Rainier, Adna, blah blah, and then the next thing you know, Mabton just kind of goes on a run, and Mabton knocks off Rainier, and I mean, Rainier unfortunately had one of their regular starters out for the game due to injury, but we can't take that away from Mabton. Mabton's been a team that's been pretty consistent the last few years. They're I mean, when they get hot, those girls can hit a whole bunch of shots, and it's not a surprise. Mabton's going to struggle. I'm not going to say they're going to struggle, but Mabton's got a tough one with Adna, who Adna for me is the clear 1 seed. They were just like Rainier Beach and 3A boys. They were head and shoulders above everybody else. I think Adna has the best player in the tournament. Obviously, them getting the 2 seed because they lost to Rainier in that district championship game, but Adna is the favorite in my eyes, and I feel like it's gonna be really, really tough for Mabton to be able to get to a state championship game.
Absolutely, they lack size, but they do defense by committee, and I would love to see them go up against some track program, maybe like an 800. Like they never stop running. That's what makes them so dangerous. I was at the game in Spokane, and for the nightcap, it was a great way to cap that off. That Mabton, I mean, it was tied 56-56, and Mabton created a turnover, scored a 3, created another turnover, scored a 2, and that's how they closed out the game in the final 90 seconds. Such a great game. Sad for Rainier. And then also Napavine, to mention, in the 2B girls, the defending state champions, got a 10-point win, and Hayden Kaut, so fun to watch. I don't care what classification, she's a player that you want to watch.
100%. They've got a really tough one with Brewster here too. Brewster's always a consistent girls and boys program, basketball, another basketball factory up there in North Central Washington. But yeah, I think that if we can, if both the favorites win in those ones, Napavine Adna semifinal would be just amazing television.
And Columbia on the girls' side did get knocked out with a 9-point loss against Mount Vernon Christian in the opening round. So moving on to 1A boys, staying in Spokane. What's going on over there, Matt?
We've got some local teams over here. DeSales is still in it. They're the 4 seed. They've got themselves a very tough task to get through because one of their few losses this year was to the number 1 seed, Elmira Cooley Heartline, who is just a very, very talented basketball team, top to bottom. They're not the tallest team, but they are that prototypical 1B team that just kind of uses their speed and can shoot the lights out. Will that transition to the arena? We'll see how they fare. Elmira Cooley Heartline takes on Moses Lake Christian, who did have a 19-point win. So we'll see kind of how that momentum goes through. If Moses Lake Christian can kind of jump out on ACH early. DeSales takes on Tulalip Heritage, who is a 6 seed and does have a win under their belt, but it's a different style of basketball that they play over there, and I'm not sure. I don't know how DeSales is going to be able to, if they can keep up with that one. I mean, they are a very talented team. They can shoot the lights out themselves, but 1B basketball on the boys' side, on the west side, is very, very physical. So that's going to be, are the refs going to let them play? That'll be the thing to keep an eye on there. If you're watching the other side of the bracket, Lummi Nation, they've got a junior named Jerome Toby. He's worth the price of admission. I've been watching this kid since he was in 8th grade. 9 p.m. up at the arena tomorrow, or NFHS Network. You've got to watch him play sometime in the next 2 years. I think if Lummi, Lummi's the team that I think is the favorite, just because of Jerome Toby, and I see them facing off Thelmeyer Cooley Heartline in the final. But yeah, just some great talent up there. We'll see what DeSales can do today against Tulane.
So moving on to 1B girls state basketball, Nia Bay won it last year. They're the favorites coming in today, but some other talent coming into it. So that's another one that's kind of fun to track, even though Nia Bay is the clear favorite.
Yes, and we're very well represented on the east side here in this bracket as well. We've got Sunnyside Christian locally going in. They're playing against Welpinit here today. Yakima Tribal, they did drop their their regional round game to Welpinit, but they won yesterday. They're going to be playing against Garfield Palouse, who I think Garfield Palouse is a very, very dangerous team. They've got a very talented 6'1" junior named Elena Flansburg, who does not get a lot of press, but obviously is a 1B athlete, but she's the real deal. Nia Bay is defending state champions. They're probably the most athletic team, probably the best team. I like to see them and Garfield Palouse match up, but I don't know. I think Garfield Palouse could probably knock them off if they can utilize that size with Flansburg in the post.
In the 1A girls side, a lot of them are really close matchups. We talked about Yakima Tribal. That was just a 2-point win over WCK. And then talking about Sunnyside Christian, I have their box score right in front of me. I mean, that was a 2-point win as well. So a lot of really close games on the 1B side. Yeah,
absolutely. It's going to be it should be a very fun tournament today, especially. There's a league matchup, number 2 Waterville Mansfield and Pateros. Pateros with a kind of an upset win yesterday. There's going to be some good matchups there. I think there's going to be 3 really close ones. I don't know if Nia Bay Oakdale is going to be a close one, but some good basketball to be played around the state.
Absolutely. And one more note on Sunnyside Christian locally, Devin Harrington scoring 18 points in the 2-point win yesterday. Well, Matt, we're all out of time, but I appreciate having you on and love the opportunity to talk basketball with you here in the state of Washington.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's always nice to to share, just show the spotlight on our local athletes, and we've got some really great people who do that, and appreciate all of the hard work that you're doing. It's hopefully you've got your caffeine ready to go for the next 3 days, because as we both know, the state tournament is definitely a grind for not only the players but the media folks as well.
I got my caffeine ready. Well, that wraps up this week's show of the Sports Council. Thank you for joining me on 1340 ESPN, your Tri-Cities leader in sports. A reminder, the Sports Council happens 4 times a month, 11:30 a.m. on Thursdays. But you can listen to the show not just over the airwaves at 11:30 on Thursdays, but also on demand at 1340ESPNradio.com via podcast. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search for the Sports Council. And it's also available via YouTube. So lots of ways to listen to the Sports Council and support our local sports community. Now we go back to your originally scheduled Seattle sports programming.